we continue with the national film educational models. We discussed what's going on at the European level, and we're going to tackle the question of national strategies. So do we need one? And by presenting the best of the best to see how we can do it in our own countries. So I invite the following speakers. We're going to start with Germany and Vision Kino with Leopold, Grün. Then we move to Denmark, Lisbeth, Arto, Juhl, Sibbesen. Then to UK, on behalf of British Film Institute, we're going to have Reid. And we're going to finish with Sweden, Anna HAKANSSON and Ksenija Zubković from Slovenian Film Center. I do feel like it's a Eurovision song contest, but we are not competing for the points. We are here to share, to acknowledge what we do, and to learn from each other and from our know-how. So we have at the moment 97 participants in our audience, and let's be not exactly fast and furious, but let's be efficient. So I will start with Leopold, and I will just give you some hints when it comes to Vision Kino. I mean, Germany is a federation of 16 constituent states. And luckily enough, somehow Vision Kino is the one coordinating all the film educational activities at the German level. Is it true? And how do you do, Leopold?
Yes, thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I stay at the moment in the hotel in Leipzig at the film exhibition. Okay. And sometimes maybe you hear a little bit sound trouble. So yes, I am in the beginning. Maybe I give you a little bit of overview of this institution, Vision Kino, Vision Cinema, the structure and funding of Vision Kino. Vision Kino. It's a non-profit organization for the promotion of film and media competence of children and young people active throughout Germany. And it's a public-private partnership by the federal government and the Commission of Culture and Media and the German Film Board. We have additional shareholders, the Deutsche Kinemathek, German Cinemathek Foundation, and the associations of film distributors and the Association of German Film Theatres. So, and we have a patron, the president of Frank-Walter Steinmeier, and we have additional funding for specific projects in Germany. The challenge in Germany is the educational system you spoke about. We are a federal republic. We are 16 federal states, and each state has an independent responsibility for education and culture. And what we do is education and film education. So this is a challenge for us to implement the national initiatives and in this federal system. So, and organizations as such, Vision Kino, try to overcome this challenge and coordinate a national-wide strategy. So, and so the question is, what can we do? So I give some overview about our projects. Regular national congresses. In the end of this year, we have the next congress. Regular film recommendations. We have didactic DVDs, educational material for films, and study guides with thematic priorities. And we make selected projects, cultural integration initiatives, mobile cinema, educational projects in collaboration with film festivals, for instance, the Berlinale, and next time we want to start a Teacher's Day with Doc Leipzig. And yes, European collaboration projects from a framework to impact, for instance, you know, the open online course MOOC, Film Education, a User's Guide. So, and we support as well many educators, multipliers, parents, institutions, and cinemas in their work and networking. So, and the biggest project are the school cinema weeks. And this is a successful story because we implement this school cinema weeks in all the federal states. So take place in all 16 federal states in cooperation with other partners. And maybe I can give you an overview with facts. Can I share the screen?
Yes, try it.
Yes, that's the budget is 1.5 million roundabout, and last year we had roundabout 1 million students and teachers at the school cinema weeks, and in collaboration with 850 cinemas. And you can see the facts. It's not necessary to speak about the facts. And here, what we can do in this year, in this pandemic year, is to find more projects to pre and post reflection of films in a digital way. So we are concentrated to present the films in the cinema. This is our focus, yes, and we think it's very important to say yes. We want to screen the films in the cinema with this challenge now. But we can more do in the pre and post reflection for films. This is the aim is to intensify the preoccupation with film as a work of art, to show in the cinema an attractive alternative to streaming services. So, and maybe you can see the other page now. Yes. So maybe a little bit an overview about the organization of this cinema weeks, because it's here you have the facts, and we in Berlin we are 8, no more as 8 colleagues in Berlin, but we have a regional office of this school cinema weeks in the 16 states. And it's a collaboration with the film distributors, with cinemas. Yes, and we have more funders in these regional states. So maybe this is a little bit an overview about this construction of Visio and Kino. Maybe we can speak more about a question from your side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We move to Lisbeth. We already touched COVID times, and definitely what is important now to also provide online education. And for this reason, we chose Lisbeth, who is head of and running Filmcentralen from Denmark. And just to give you some facts and figures about Denmark, they have, as Klaus already mentioned, a special department, and 25% of the budget is devoted to children's and youth films. So they're quite, how shall I say, already forward in terms of supporting children's film. And I like that they also have their motto under a special department: experience, understand, and create. So Lisbeth, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hello, happy to be here. Yes, I would like to show you a couple of slides and a trailer. I guess that Klaus already told you several things, but just to repeat once more that I'm working in the Department of Children and Youth, Danish Film Institute. We are a government agency under the Ministry of Culture, and our main objective stated in the National Film Act is to promote film art and film and cinema culture in Denmark. And yes, we have this vision about all children should experience, understand, and create films. We have a long-standing tradition in Denmark for using films in the classroom. We have been distributing films to schools since the 1930s. And in 2007, we launched Filmcentralen, which was an online streaming site that we made in collaboration with the Danish Library Center. And it proved to be a great success with schools and with libraries and with other public institutions. But at the Film Institute, we had the ambition to create our own dissemination platform with a smaller target group, which meant only schools and a dedicated focus only on teaching. So we carried out a lot of studies about the needs and desires of students and teachers, and we gathered inspiration from other media teaching portals in Denmark and abroad. And then in 2013, we launched Filmcentralen. This is the first version of Filmcentralen. We are working on the second one, which is going to be launched in February 2021, we hope. So this one has been active since 2013. We are still collaborating with the Danish Library Center, but they are only in charge of the digital content supply and the customer service regarding all the technical issues. So the purpose of Filmcentralen is to promote the use of short and documentary films in the classroom and to raise the quality of film appreciation and film education efforts in schools. It works on all standard platforms, and it's a flexible universe, so students and teachers, they have access to all the content in school, but also when they are at home. So I just want to show you a couple of figures before going on to the trailer. So we have more than 2,000 short and documentary films, more than 600 teaching materials. It works by subscription fee, and depending on the size of the schools, the fees is from 150 to 2,070. About 90% of high schools and elementary schools have a subscription, and about 800 other learning institutions. And so these are the numbers of the film streams, page views, and unique users in 2019. Yes, let me show you the trailer.
Features a large collection of Filmcentralen Education, the Danish Film Institute's streaming service and learning platform, features a large collection of films and learning resources for students and teachers. The service is available on all media platforms, accesses by Unilogin, a shared login for all students and teachers in Denmark. Subscribers have unlimited access to all content. Teachers and students can watch films in the classroom or at home to prepare for classes. Filmcentralen features around 2,000 films and more are added continuously. All shorts and documentaries that receive production support from the Film Institute are automatically added on Filmcentralen. Films, including features, are continually being acquired so that all kinds and genres of films are represented. You can search for film for your purposes by using search filters. Filter by grade, subject, type of film, films with learning materials, running time, and more. The Filmcentralen player lets you download screenshots, insert markers, save film clips and make lists, and share them with others. Many of the films come with learning materials of various kinds and lengths. Altogether, Filmcentralen features more than 600 different sets of learning materials. Filmcentralen also includes a film encyclopedia, providing definitions of key film terms in words and film clips. Also, Filmcentralen is where you access the Film Institute's other educational offerings. This includes the nationwide school cinema program, Med skolen i biografen, which sends 250,000 school children to the cinema every year. It also includes Film X, the Film Institute's interactive film studio, where kids can make their own films. Finally, there's an overview of the array of film learning activities, resources, and research findings in Denmark and around the world. The use of films and learning resources has steadily grown since Filmcentralen was launched in 2013. There are annually 800,000 streams and 1.2 million users. An update is in the pipeline. The dynamics of film and learning resources will be developed with a greater focus on creative student activities, productive learning, and new formats.
Wow, this is amazing. Yeah. So since you're moving to a new version of Filmcentralen, can you give us maybe a short overview what is going to be introduced in the new format, since this one already is quite efficient and school and pupil friendly?
Well, yeah, the present one is mainly for teachers, though. The educational materials, of course, they have some study guides for children that you can download on a PDF, but it's mainly for the teachers. So the new one, we will try to have more focus on the students. Instead of just one entrance for teachers, we will have 2 entrances for teachers and students. And so the material will be of a more like interactive ways and with more different medias, and productive learning will also be in focus in the new one. So that's the main difference.
And it's only I like the idea that you're actually compiling what Danish Film Institute is producing and putting in online. I'm curious, so it's only the Danish Film Institute working on the platform with some people outsourcing it, or how does it work? And another question, since some might be interested in, if they want to develop their own platform, since you already have a software, are you willing to collaborate in this direction in terms of helping them out, or how does it work?
Yes, well, it depends on the projects, but people are welcome to write us, and we'll have a conversation with them. We have, of course, a lot of know-how about how to do this. Mm-hmm. It's been a long journey. I mean, I have been working here since like 15 years, and it started out with VHS and DVD, and now we are on to streaming. So we have also made the journey, and there was a lot of challenges, especially in the beginning. The first 6 months after we launched in 2013, we didn't have almost any subscriptions at all. And then we made it for free. We had a 3 year of subscription, and we participated in a lot of conferences all over in Denmark, and were trying to speak to teachers and, do you know the Filmcentralen? Do you know the Filmcentralen? And then little by little, we had more and more subscriptions. And then after a year, when they were so happy that they wouldn't let go of it, then we could start to introduce the subscription fees. Sorry, what did you also ask me?
In terms of if someone wants to, in their own country, introduce a similar platform, and since you develop your own software, how does it work? Are you willing to collaborate or offer some guidance in there? Or
yes, well, I'll just please write to us, and we'll talk about it. I can't really say if we could do that or not. It's not. Well, the platform in the beginning, it was the platform of the Danish Library Center, and then afterwards it's our own platform, but it's still in collaboration with them. So it's, but I'm not really into all the technical details. I'm more of, focused on the content. But yes, please feel free to write to us.
And just during the COVID times, it must have been quite used.
Yes.
Do you have a data on that? Just in case, just approximately.
Yeah.
You don't.
No, I don't really. But we did, yes, and we also had some kind of problems, because actually it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't meant to have so many viewers at the same time. So okay. I know that our technical support, they were working really hard to make it work, because it was kind of frustrating in the beginning. Then everybody was like, "Oh, we can use the Filmcentralen," and then actually it had quite a lot of problems.
So there was an overload.
Yeah, there was an overload of users in the beginning, but then afterwards it worked out very well. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I would like to move to Mark. We mentioned Mark and BF5 quite often in the first part of the day. You're somehow leading in all those film studies, screen literacy, then all those offer of massive online courses. I even participated in Future Learn. So there is so much to share with us. Yes, there is a little time, but let's take the best out of it. I mean, you're like a legend when it comes to the film education, and I would like to give you the floor to guide us.
Thanks, Martina. Shall I share my screen and just show those
Please.
slides? Okay, well, let me say just a couple of things about what I do. First of all, before I do that, Mark Koskov has mentioned very kindly the work that the BFI does in different areas of film education and training. The department I'm in is called Education and Skills, and it's split down the middle, and half of it with the Film Academy, with Future Film Festival, it's supporting young people in particular to progress their aspirations to work in the film industry. It's around training. And training is a context-specific, goal-oriented process, and in the screen industries, it's for a limited number of people, 30 or 40,000 people in the UK. Education, which is the part that I look after, is an open-ended process, and it has a broad base. You know, ideally reaching the 60 million people in the UK and giving them some opportunity to experience the art of film and television. So I think it's important that for us all that we're sure that the distinction between education and training, because otherwise, as is happening more and more, industry, business ontology, and economics and employability tend to dominate everything. But actually, we need to maintain civic spaces with cultural access and cultural participation. And they're harder to justify because they don't end up in jobs, but they are one of the ways in which democracies will maintain and sustain themselves. But just in terms of, we were talking about film education strategies, and I'm just about to check whether people are turning off at the point where you talk about we talk about education strategies. I'm sharing my PowerPoint if people can see that. Can people see that? Just a couple of slides, because people have mentioned screening literacy, which is 8 years old now, and that's all of the work that we've done in the BFI in Europe is a consortium effort. It's a collaborative effort. We're working. I'm one amongst sometimes 20 or 30 people who are creating this, I think I just end up being able to use something of the infrastructure of the BFI to keep and to coordinate and keep these projects going. But these are genuinely international, pan-European collaborative efforts in which I feel that I have colleagues as important to me working outside the BFI as my colleagues inside the BFI. So screening literacy, 8 years ago, one of the things that we looked at was different models of film education, and whether there were strategies to coordinate these models of film education. And the thing that we came up with was, we call it an ideal type. I think in sociology it's called an ideal type, where you set out a perfect model of something like film education in a country, and you say ideally it would have the following characteristics, and there are 10 points, 10 characteristics of an ideal or a perfect type of film education, and no country has all of these. This is drawn from lots of examples across Europe, and so that just quickly, the 10 points: a high degree of coordination across all of the sectors that matter in film education. So that's formal schooling, but it's also the industry, it's also broadcasters, it's the informal sector, it's the cultural sector, it's festivals, it's archives, and being able to coordinate across all of those different sectors It's something that the Scandinavian countries tend to do particularly well, to coordinating there. And we found very, very rarely there was a national strategic plan that managed this coordination. The example I always go to is Northern Ireland, which is a small country, which had the benefit of recovering from 30 or 40 years of conflict, and lots of resources and will and political will went into kind of cultural activity to bring communities together. It's something that tends to happen after wars. It happened after the Second World War as well in countries across Europe, that culture became a way of bringing people together. We found that everybody, the sense that everybody is entitled to moving image literacy and to developing their moving image literacy rather than just small numbers. And small numbers tends to be what we get all the way across Europe and in the UK as well. Putting film education as part of a wider culture in film. So having that cultural breadth in film, as we were just hearing from the Art Film Network and from Kino, from all the great examples of cinemas that have a sense of the widest audience entitlement. It's important that both the formal and the informal sectors have equal stakes in any film education process. So it's not just schools, and it's not just after school and outside of school. It's both working together. And the other five, and again, this is incredibly rare, having independent evaluation and research that kind of follows up and looks at the impact and the value of what your film education programs are doing. Having high levels of participation over a long period of time. There's lots and lots of examples of project by project working. Everybody will have had experience of that. But a curriculum, for example, a national curriculum, is built for the long term, and it also reaches everybody. So, you know, if you're really serious about cultural participation for everybody, then the curriculum is the place where you reach everybody. Having this sense that it's not just public money or commercial money that supports film education, but as Leopold was describing, that perfect example of a public-private partnership, which is this and Kino. And finally, this notion, not just professional development and training across all of your workforce, but having that accredited and having it stepped in different levels. There's lots of good examples of professional development for people who are beginning, people who are entry level in film education. But we need professional development for experts as well. Maybe we'll say a bit more about how we're managing that, how we're supporting that later with the MOOC, which is essentially for people who are relatively new to film education, to some lead practitioner seminars which are happening across Europe over the next couple of months, which are for more experienced practitioners. And why strategy matters? Because it enables a country or a jurisdiction to plan for the long term, that it stops duplicating resource so that you don't have lots and lots of different versions of essentially the same thing that are happening all at the same time. That it's developmental and it's for everybody, so it builds over time rather than starting from scratch. You know, every time there's European funding for a project, there's a website built, there's a community and a network build, and then 2 years later the money runs out, and then there's a new project and a new website. So, you know, this is why strategies can build over time rather than reinventing. And it was great to hear from Maria before. From DG Connect, it's one thing that maybe the European Commission might look at is how to be strategic in film education and to manage to maybe even to devise a strategy for deploying resources. And just the final reason why is that the most powerful kind of cultural players and educational players in strategy are always the education ministries. The education ministries in the UK dwarf the creative industry sector by about the size of about 4 to 1 in terms of resourcing. So education is where the big money is spent, and we need access to more of that. I will stop sharing at this point.
Sharing is caring. Yeah, you quite tackled well the problematics, and I experienced personally, and I mentioned it earlier, that it was so difficult to gather all the data who does what, and especially regarding the project supported by the media program. That's why I'm giving them floor tomorrow, because it's so difficult to find a little summary of what the project is about, unless you contact the person, and things like that need to be transparent more. And we are all doing great things. We just need to have one source where we can find all the data. I asked you 2 days earlier, maybe just if you can share the website, if you have it open, if not, we can then do it later. One of your colleagues, I think, shared MOOC. Online courses. This is something that might be very useful for our audience, because I also managed to participate at Future Learn online course, and most of them are for free. So if you are not, if you can do it now, just quickly to give an insight. If not, we can do it later. I continue with.
I can do it now. I've got it open.
Okay.
He said,
because like ECFA, you also offer some great, ECFA offers details about the films. Okay, perfect.
Okay. So the course is called Film Education, a User's Guide. It's on the Future Learn platform. If you just put that in a search engine, you'll be taken to the sign-up page. The course runs again from the 12th of October, so in just under a month. It's open for 8 weeks, I think. It says it's a 4-week course, but you can do all 4 weeks of an online course in an evening if you really, if you work really quickly, or you can take your time over it. So the benefits are that you get access to for free to these kind of learning materials and ideas and techniques, but you also participate with hundreds and hundreds of other people in an online community. So I don't know whether I can find out the comments here.
Do you have an information about the last course? How many actually? But people participated.
Well, 3,000 people signed up, but then about 1,500 of those people participated kind of actively by following steps and commenting. And I think maybe about 500 people finished in the sense that they completed and signed that they completed the 500, the steps. There are about 15 steps a week. That's 60 steps to complete. A step takes about 20 minutes. Depending on how good your English is, and we're very conscious that people come and have to use a second language. We are looking at ways of translating the materials and then turning the course itself into a website, which we hope to launch by the end of the year when we go to Vision Kino's conference in Erfurt at the end of November. That's because if you run an online course, you have to keep opening it and closing it and running it. But we want to take all of the materials and put them on a static website so that they're always available for people. And you can see here that when we opened the course, 217 people immediately joined in and said hi, and we'll talk about the materials, talk about the ideas. That's really the benefit of it, is that you get introduced to other people and that you get to share and exchange, and you do it online, at your own pace and in your own environment. But yeah, you can sign up and find out the rubric. It'll tell you what's covered in each of the 4 weeks. It's for a mixture of teachers, policymakers, festival people. There's something there for everybody, and you don't have to do everything.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so I moved to Sweden and we have Anna with us. And just before I give floor to Anna, your site the Swedish Film Institute site is quite amazing, because it's really clear in terms of how grants are distributed to regional film centers, how much money precisely you devote to film education, study materials, seminars and conferences, special projects, and wages even. So let's learn from the best. So Anna, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be invited to this beautiful occasion to discuss the issues of our hearts. And I would like to share with you a presentation. And so just wait for a minute. Share screen and give it the full page, shouldn't I? Yeah. So let's talk about the Swedish Film Institute and our mission. And it's, of course, to have the national responsibility for the goals of Sweden's film policy. And a very important part of this is, of course, that children and young people should have a good knowledge of film and moving images and have the possibility to be creative. And this also as a part of Sweden's cultural policy in a wider sense, supporting dynamic culture, challenging and independent and leaning on the freedom of expression. And our cultural policy, as well as the film policy, is also, as you might be aware, strongly connected to gender equality, which transpires all of our work at the Film Institute. And so our goal is to increase film literacy among children and young people. And in order to do that, we are a source of information and knowledge for all of Sweden's regions, as well as a center of networks. And in this, the regions of Sweden plays an immensely important part. And we are also working, of course, to make film literacy a part of teachers' education, which is easily easily said than done. It's the expression, I believe. And we also arrange film and school conferences, and they are usually for a year around in the different regions of Sweden. Always starting though in Malmö at the Buff Film Festival, the festival for young people, the film festival for young people. But this year we have a digital version, as we all. And in doing this, in order to manage this, we have different projects. Among them, we write film study guides and other educational material for that matter. And actually, the Swedish Film Institute, we have a long history of working with film study guides since the 80s. And now, today, we have around 800 study guides available online. And we've also been working for a long time with school cinema. But nowadays we support school cinema among other film educational projects for children and youth financially. But in last year, when it comes to dedicated spaces for children and youth, school cinema is really central, of course. Last year we have had this survey recently, which covers the figures, facts and figures of school cinema last year, and here the results showed us that they have been screening around 280 unique titles on school cinema all across Sweden, and those titles were originated from 44 different countries. And among them, the European films, the films of European origin, were in absolute majority. So that's very nice to hear. And also many of these films don't even have an ordinary premiere at the repertoire of ordinary cinemas. So they are unique for the school cinema, and the school cinema as such. And we are also working with the training for teachers and educators with in association with the regional film resource centers. But in working, there are also obstacles, as you are well aware, I presume, and one of the main obstacles is, of course, the unequal representation of the presence of film education in schools across Sweden. And this has mainly to do with that it's dependent on different key persons, such as dedicated teachers and people working on the schools. And also the projects, the education is very based on projects. So, and all this has, of course, to do with the lack of incorporation within the educational system. So the key to solve this is, as Mark, among others, mentioned, of course, to make film education a part of the curriculum. And we have different strategies in doing so, among them, trying to adjust our study guides to different main subjects within the curricula to make them more relevant for the educators to use. And also making involving film history is a new strategy of ours, which makes the material more relevant because of the part of the cultural heritage, both within the film politics and the curricula and the cultural politics. And we've actually had quite a breakthrough recently when there were articles revolving around film literacy that were included within the educational models of our National Agency for Education, Skolverket in Swedish. And that is as close to becoming a part of the curricula as you can get. So we are hopeful to make film literacy even more central within the educational system.
Okay, so you are close to the curriculum, actually.
Yes, well sort of. It's a different thing, and there are different kinds of where you can sense the part of film in different parts of the curricula as well. But it's not very clear. You have to.
How to implement it exactly.
Yes.
So yeah, so this is so it's important to have a national strategy, but indeed for the curriculum it really needs to be joint forces with different ministries and different professional associations, and it's a lot of work on the other hand as well. So sorry I jumped in, but you came to the end of the presentation.
Yes, I did, so it was perfect.
Okay. So last but not the least, thank you. Last but not the least, I moved to the regional example. I'm aware that something similar was supposed to take place in Slovenia, I believe in April, but due to the COVID, it was cancelled. So I would like to give the floor to Ksenija Zubković from the Slovenian Film Center, just to give us an overview how Slovenia is dealing with national strategy and its implementation, and where are they when it comes to film education. So Ksenija, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello. So yes, I'm representing Slovenian Film Center. We are a public agency of the Republic of Slovenia. And I will start with a short overview and introduce Slovenian Film Center, then proceed to the strategy and what happened since we adopted it, and then I will ask what we need to do in the future, and I will try to be as short as possible. Slovenian Film Center, the goal of Slovenian Film Center is to encourage creativity in the film and audiovisual field in Slovenia. by creating conditions for film, audiovisual sector, cinematographic activities, and so on. And a small part of this, very small part actually, is also film education. So the Slovenian Film Center has, through public calls and tenders, promoted the wider development of film education projects. And we started to fund film education projects in 2011 for the first time, receiving funds and distributing funds for 1 year only. It supported smaller projects within cinemas and other cultural bodies taking place nationally in cinemas, in film clubs, schools, and so on. So a few years ago, before our strategy, we could say that the most of the film education projects and programs lacked continuity. They were not systematically implemented. There was no guidelines for the quality implementation of film education, and no strategic long-term support for film education programs and projects. And great amount of work on this field was done by Art Cinema Network and its leader, Kino, that you all probably know. So now the Slovenian Film Center still does not offer tenders and public calls for multi-annual support of film educational programs and projects, and this is quite a problem for us as an agency. So in 2015, it was, I think it was 2015, I wasn't working on this field then, but the expert commission was appointed in Slovenia in 2015 for the preparation of strategy for the development of national film education. And it consisted of representatives of Slovenian Film Center, that was back then was my colleague Jelka Stebel, the representatives of Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Education, the Education Institute of Republic of Slovenia, and the Kino City Cinema, and the Slovenian Cinematheque. And they worked on the strategy, and in 2016 the government adopted the strategy for national film education development. And based on the proposed goals and measures, the strategy aims to ensure accessibility, the systematic approach, and the long-term perspective of film education projects and programs in Slovenia, as well as implement quality and professionalization in this field, which we lack quite a bit. So in strategy, the recommendations are set up in favor of multi-annual calls that I already mentioned, better accessibility and training of people who will actually provide or offer this film education, because usually it's more or less, I don't know how to explain, but not many people are actually trained to train new generations in a way. But unfortunately, the objectives set out in this strategy, they do not have specific deadlines and do not have real responsibility for implementing the strategy, and it's not quite precisely defined who and when and what has to be done. So in other words, it's not really binding. But okay, it was a first serious step, the result of the efforts of individuals and institutions who are working on this for
So just if I can interrupt you, just to be clear, you have a strategy, however, it hasn't been implemented yet.
It is in a way, but there are some goals there, but it's not really strictly defined how things should be done, who should be doing it, and till when. There are not any deadlines. It's more like some sort of recommendations. So it's not really a legally binding document, so to say.
Okay.
But okay, since then, since 2016. Most important things that happened is that the Professional Council for General Education has accepted a new curriculum for optional subjects in film education in primary and in middle schools. So teaching both subjects started in 2019, I think, the first generation. Because before in the Slovenian national curriculum there was no regular film education. It was part of art education or media education. So, but even now with this being in curriculum, teachers and parents and pupils have to choose between different options, and participation in this film educations in school is largely down to the teachers and to their individual interests and how well they do it, and also in interest that schoolmasters might have or might not have to support this. So, but okay, now it is in schools officially. And yes, also since 2017, there is also a film primary school, which is a 5-year educational project of the Art Cinema Network for primary school pedagogues throughout Slovenia, so they can be educated to educate new generations. And the project Understanding Film, the project of Slovenian Cinematheque for pedagogues of secondary schools. And both projects were selected in the public tender, development of innovative learning environments and flexible forms of learning for raising general competencies in the field of culture. It is another step in this direction. And now, in the future 5-year perspective, let's say the Slovenian Film Center this year adopted our future 5-year strategy of development of our agency. And one of the main 4 goals of our agency now is definitely increasing the accessibility of film content and developing audiences. And I think that we all agree that introducing this multi-annual support for film education is probably absolutely necessary here, because without that there is no any continuity in development of projects, because they can get funds 1 year and then not get it another year, or get way less than they maybe they were used to. Also, due to diversity of projects, we have to introduce additional support in addition to this current form that we have, and support a wider range of film educational programs, because it's also not quite the same if the programs are in cinemas or are part of festivals or cinema clubs, or maybe some really small enthusiastic projects in smaller towns. But as said, we have only 1 tender per year. And approximately it's 100,000 euros for annually for everything in the field of film education. And just to say that Slovenian Film Center budget is a little bit less than 5.5 million, and so 100,000 goes to film education. And I agree, in one panel before, someone said that yes, this field is probably really neglected also inside of every institution, because in Slovenia, of course, we all, everyone have the lack of finances, and the film sector is really underdeveloped in this field in Slovenia. But film education gets even less funds, and it's really it seems like it's the last thing on mind of people who decide. But yes, in the future 5-year perspective, Slovenian Film Center will be committed to raising the amount of tendered funds, and because currently the available resources does not allow us any strategic development of that area. What we also need broader research which would detect the outcomes of these programs and projects, the good practice examples of the existing programs and projects, and also we are planning to analyze and do evaluation of the results of our strategy of national film education. It's almost 5 years from 2016 when it was adopted, so it will be really time to see what is the outcome actually of this. So very short.
So thank you. Since we are a bit running out of time, I will divide questions to your little groupings, let's say. So for Leopold and Mark, I have a question, and Leopold, you can also mention, it is a good timing to mention the conference you will be organizing in November or October, November. I'm not October, November, you will correct me. But since you are quite, how shall I say, working closely and collaborating with projects, do you think that we need more diversity at the European level when it comes to the film education activities? Or would you also say that ones that are approved, that it's good to continue supporting them at a multi-annual framework? So maybe I start with Leopold.
Okay, first I would say, when I heard about this national strategies, we have in Germany one problem, let me say this, because we often speak about media competence, and we have the possibility to put media or film education in this street of media competence, but we don't understand the same thing. Yes, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But film education is not part of the curricula in Germany. So we have the possibility to put the film education in this big street, on this big street of media competence, and this is our fight and our challenge in Germany, and this is our challenge, and we hope that we find the way with our projects, with School Cinema Weeks and the other projects, to implement this film education in this this part of media education. And this is my question to the other colleagues. Have you the same conflicts in your country, and what is your experience with this issue?
Let me move to Mark, and then I will take from Anna, if it's okay. because I would also like to hear Mark in terms of the European funding, and then maybe you can answer and help Leopold giving recommendations.
Well, it's always important, obviously, with any funding program, that there's a wider range of programs and participants. If funding only ever went to one or two big countries, and you know, even if you could make that sustainable, it would still leave out the wider range. So that there has to be a balance between diversification, but sustainability, and that's why, again, I'd say it needs a strategy. It needs you know, thinking through and working out exactly what are the aims and goals of film education across Europe. How can the European Commission help and support those, but within a kind of within national, you know, with it subsidiarity, so that you're not kind of trying to rule all of those kind of political questions, but to build something over time and to have a 10 or a 15 or a 20-year objective. That, I think, that's the way to build sustainability, but also each year to be able to bring in diversity. It needs a strategic framework. I can see why it's been done as it has been done for the last 15 years, because you know, you need to get money out of the door, you need to be able to support local infrastructure, national infrastructure, and it needs to be fair and transparent and be, you know, based on an application process. But I think a bit more dirigisme, as the French would come, a bit more kind of strong direction, I think wouldn't come amiss. Just on Leopold's question about media and film, absolutely, I think that it's commonplace across Europe. I was just thinking, the Finnish curriculum mentions media, I think, 250 times, and it mentions film 4 times, film 4 or 5 times. So media is very often seen as the catch-all, and including film, but film, it doesn't have its own real identity within media, because film it belongs in the art curriculum. It also belongs in the ICT or citizenship or civics, mother tongue literacy. It can go into lots of different places. It can be a part of media literacy, but it can't only be a part of media literacy.
Thank you. Now we move to Anna. Anna wanted to comment.
Yeah, it was basically actually the same thing as Mark said, with film literacy as being a petal within the media literacy flower. If you have seen that image, the UNESCO image of media literacy, but we are really working to underline the importance of film literacy within this context, because film has the advantage of having a longer history, for instance, which you can use as an argument to give it a more central place. It should actually be the center of media literacy and not the petal. I don't know the names in English for these parts of a flower, but you know, the center of the flower. It's and that is a thing that you might work together in an international context to actually do, to find these arguments. Because I guess it's the importance of UNESCO in this occasion as well, as the ones addressing this media literacy flower.
There is a question from Pantelis to Mark. I mean, he's probably asking, he's referring to what Mark said, but he's asking all of you. Mark mentioned so that we should build strategies for the following decades, but what's happening across media nowadays is based on following gigantic companies, changing policies, Google, Apple, and similar. So should we endorse their goals? And do you think that we can push them to another direction? Who wants to start first? Maybe Mark.
Well, I guess having talked about strategy and then remembering there's I don't know who said it, but culture eats strategy for breakfast. which is a useful reminder that no matter how strategic you think you're being, a virus can come out of nowhere and suddenly transform everybody's life. You know, there was no strategy for that. There's no, we can't protect film education against that. And TikTok arguably is going to have a far greater impact on young people's moving image experience than anything we could do. You know, even if the European Commission spent 50% of its film budget on film education, you know, so it was spending 300 or 400 million euros on film education, we still wouldn't be able to compete with TikTok. So the question is, how do we work, I guess, with education infrastructure so that children are engaging with a wider range of film and moving image content, and not just, you know, not only what they're seeing on their phone. We can't ignore it. We have to work with it. We have to listen to young people, but without abandoning the kinds of cinema heritage that we think is important.
Every single child is important, and we tend to forget that we need to also offer them high quality of films and diversity. So this is something to really push forward to the European Commission to work on better circulation of films and making it more accessible and available, so that they get familiar with what's going on at the European level. I see Lisbeth. You want to?
No, yeah,
comment?
I just wanted to comment. Yes, we had this big research for a couple of years ago, concluding that like film is the mother of all media. So that's what we are trying to do, to say that. But if you want to know what's going on TikTok, if you want to be creative and critical, then you need to know your film language, because it's the mother of all media. So I just wanted to make this little comment.
Do you have also some link for this research? Is it only in Danish or?
I think I'm not sure if we have an English translation.
Okay. I'm just trying to collect all the important, because the idea is this is what I would like to do after this conference, to kind of make a report, because they are still missing the information. The last one was done in 2015, so maybe this is also a good starting point to gather and collect all the information with all those links being distributed and things like that, so that we have also something written and in hand. There is also a comment Pantelis shared with us, shared with me, and then we have Carla. Education is about individuals and film education, even if it has some national or EU plan as to have local interlocutors. Okay. And there is a question from Ian to everybody. Isn't a lot of media literacy based on moral panic and the desire to protect children? Who wants to answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Film education and media education come from very different places. Media education comes from, I think, as Ian's pointing out, a suspicion that the media are fundamentally harmful, and the best way to protect children from nasty media is through education. And with film education, we don't think of film as being fundamentally harmful. We think of it as being fundamentally enjoyable, entertaining, enriching, and so tonally they don't sit alongside each other very easily. So it's one of many reasons why you can't just put film education or film literacy under the media education banner, because they have fundamentally different objectives.
Yeah, and I'm really scared with this new direction of the European Commission having media literacy under the media sub-program. It's gonna cause a lot of mess, I think, and misunderstandings. So does anybody else want to answer this question? Isn't a lot of media literacy based on moral panic? Anna, maybe do you have some final words or so?
Well, moral panic is, of course, always something that tends to make new laws appear. But he has a point, I would say, of course.
Okay. And for the last round, just quickly, what is your favorite children's film? Ksenija.
I really had to think really hard because I forgot films from my childhood, and my kid is not big enough to. So I'm expecting to start watching children movies again. But I would say maybe The Secret of Kells was actually really great. I saw it a few times because I was working at cinema at the time, and I was watching it a lot. And also have to say, maybe you probably don't know, or maybe you do, the animated series of Slovenian author Kolja Saksida, short movie Skoja. It's great. Really, it's great.
Yeah, and it's also he was also in Croatia presenting the as a case study. Yeah. Leopold, your final words, and what is your favorite?
It's necessary because I'm in a conflict. I have to go to a presentation at the cinema exhibition here in Leipzig. But,
I read your mind.
Yes, I have one film. Yeah, I saw this film, I think 7 years ago at the Berliner Cowboy, the Holland. You know this film? It's my favorite.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I didn't mention, but you were just recently appointed as the CEO of Vision Kino, and I bet you're overwhelmed with all the activities all of a sudden, but I really thank you and appreciate that you managed to join us even from the hotel room in Leipzig.
Okay.
So thank you so much. Lisbeth?
Yes, well, from recent years, I think that one of my favorites is called Song of the Sea, a very beautiful animated movie. And an all-time favorite is always Billy Elliot.
Okay. Mark? If you have, first of all, if you have any comment in terms of the final words, and then your favorite film.
Well, it's been very enjoyable. It's great to share perspectives and to think about how we can imagine a different kind of opportunity. Well, I think we're going to have to imagine different kinds of opportunity, a different environment for film education. So well done, and thank you for supporting it, for setting this out, Martina. And for the people who work with me regularly, they always like to ask me about children's film because they know I'll always say I haven't seen it. So I get teased for that. But we work a lot with short films, so I just want to say, put up the flag for short films. And how about a film called The Lucky Dip, which is an English short film. It's 3 minutes long. And I've shown it and worked with it with many teachers. It has no dialogue, so it's very good. It's very accessible. It uses purely cinematic language. It's a model animation in which it overturns stereotypes in very interesting ways. Yeah. So The Lucky Dip by Emily Skinner.
Okay, thank you, Anna.
I was thinking of a film that I saw quite recently, but maybe it's more long ago than I imagined. But Ma vie de courgette, in English it's My Life as a Courgette. Stop motion animated film. I think it's beautiful, and it handles troubles, but not becoming a very sad film. And it's got a huge heart. But I'm also very fond of the Swedish film Hugo and Josephine, of which you can see the poster behind me. It's a beautiful film.
Yeah, we would like to have all those, to be able to see it actually in our own countries as well. Yeah, this is the point. Yeah. So we came to an end. We kind of, due to the first panel, kind of prolonged our schedule. But I invite you to join us also tomorrow because Leopold is leaving, okay. But tomorrow we're going to really go into descriptions and presentations of projects that are existing and around at the national, local, regional, and the media level. Media meaning at the European level. So I invite you to also join us tomorrow. For all those who managed to stay with us till the very end, there is a different Zoom link for tomorrow, and we start at 10 European Central Time, just for all those coming from Greece, Georgia, Portugal and the UK, to be aware. And I'm really looking forward. It was a wonderful first day. We kicked off. Anna is still alive there. I'm not sure, but hopefully the technical department of Rijeka, I also say thank you. And Boba as well, if she's around. And have a good lunch, lots of coffees, and prepare yourself tomorrow with lots of chocolates. It's like CCC. It's a cookie, like from the film strategy. I can say chocolate, cookie, coffee, all in one for tomorrow.